Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to the first ever Energetik-BGU podcast. I'm Liam.
And I'm Dan.
And we'd just like to introduce you to ourselves in terms of why we ended up supporting the mighty Energetik-BGU. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Dan so he can tell you his story as to how he became a massive Energetik fan.
Thank you, Liam. So I don't know if you've heard about this thing called COVID-19. It kind of cropped up on us this year. It's a bit of an unusual situation, but one of my big releases in life is football. I love football. I'm an Arsenal fan. I follow Celtic in Glasgow, and I'm also a fan of Angers in France. It's a big release for me. It helps me to switch off, and I value it massively. So when the Premier League slowed down, came to a stop, at a time when my life came so much more pressured, a little tweet from a guy called FotMob, you may have the app, it comes a lot of digital stats, etc., to do with the games, caught my attention. Apparently there was a league in Belarus that was just about to start. And he said, okay, first 16 people, put your names forward, and we're going to create a little mini league, and we're going to play off against each other and see how we get on. I looked down the list. There were some silly names, some very childish names. You know who you are. And there was one name that stood out because I thought, you know what, I can pronounce that one. So I picked Energetik. Of course, I pronounced it energetic, but, you know, what are we to do? I entered the first game, Energetik versus Bate Borisov. No one expected Bate to lose that game. They did. Fast forward several months, I have now, in a whole different world that I would not recognize from a few months ago. I am the admin on the Energetik-BGU Twitter page. If you've interacted with that, that's me you've been talking to. The Energetik-BGU Facebook page, that's not had as much love. We've had a lot of idiots on there, but again, that's come through. And we've now started to look at this. This was a short-term dalliance, a short-term distraction, if you will. But you know what? It's kind of got its hooks in. So we're now looking at this from a different angle. We're trying to broaden out the love that we found, the support that we found for our new favorite Belarusian team. And we want to share that further. Earlier this week, John Blackwood started doing his previews and shortly reviews of the games that are coming on. And now with Liam, we're going to try and look a bit more in depth at the team, at the history. No, I won't go into the other little surprise that we might be trying to do this weekend, a little trial, but we'll come back to that. So that's my background. That's what I'm bringing to this conversation. Let's hear about how Liam came to the same club.
Well, I sadly, unfortunately, missed the amazing victory over Bate because I wasn't quite there at that stage. But as with Dan, struggling to find some way to fill my weekends, being football a huge part of my life on many levels. I happened upon a weekend when I decided this is my weekend to choose a team. And I sat myself down to watch. Actually, I have to confess, as a lifelong Norwich fan, my first thoughts were for Nirman Grodno because they play in green and yellow and it seemed an obvious fit. And I sat down to watch them against Shakhtar Soligorsk, I think it was, and it was not a classic, I have to say. Maybe if it had been a classic, maybe I wouldn't be here right now. I'm kind of glad it wasn't, to be honest, because the next day I tuned into an Energetik game against FC Minsk, I think it was, and I was immediately captivated by this team full of incredible personalities in terms of the team, very identifiable team, as you'll find out over the weeks, hopefully. And like Dan, I've been hooked ever since. I have to say, after that first week, those of you who followed Energetik at all up to now, the next 3 games we lost without scoring a goal. So I did start to wonder whether I was some sort of curse. But actually, no, it's turned around recently, and hopefully along with that continue, and we'll keep on punching above our weight and have a great time doing so. So, Dan, would you like to just talk perhaps a little bit about how else you see this developing? You've talked about, what we've already got in place, and what do you think we might end up doing next?
So we've touched on the Twitter page the different players. We've given you some basic stats on those. We're going to try and delve a bit deeper, look back at how they got to the club, how they're doing at the club. We're going to look back a bit about the history. There's a lot of interesting quirks to the Belarusian league. And Energetik are not exempt from that, and we want to perhaps look a bit through that. We don't have an exact approach to this at this point, so if you've got anything you think that we really should be looking into, that you think would be really interesting, you want to know a bit more about, we have got some links into Minsk. We've got at least one link into the club. We can look into this a bit further. We've got our own ideas, but definitely willing to be led by other people's thoughts and processes on this. So by all means do that. And Liam, this Sunday we might be putting ourselves forward to make absolute fools of ourselves. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, what we might be thinking of doing?
Well, yes, yeah. I think now is the time to reveal that we are very tempted with the idea of doing a little bit of loosely described as commentary of Sunday's big game against Vitebsk. I think we have to make it clear at this point that we are both big Energetik fans. So if you're expecting the most impartial, balanced view of what's going on during this game, then you might need to look elsewhere. You might actually get more value from listening to the Russian commentary that's out there in various places. But we're football fans, and we know full well that all football fans tend to favour their team, and you would imagine that most 50-50s that don't go our way will be derided as disgraceful decisions, and obviously any booking will clearly be completely unjust. But we can't obviously. We're not professionals, but we love the game. We love our team, and we'd love to provide some accompaniment. Obviously, many people watch the games on YouTube. It's a bit eerie in a way, isn't it? You're watching the game, and it's very quiet. And not just because there's not a huge number of fans in each stadium. It's because nobody's saying anything, which we're very used to. So we thought we'd quite like to fill that gap. But obviously, it will be very much from an Energetik point of view, although we'll try our very, very hardest to be reasonably balanced in our approach to our commentary. I will call it in inverted commas.
Well, I'd like to say that I will not be doing my best to be imbalanced. If you have followed the Energetik Twitter page, you'll know that from quite a few weeks now, I've been trying to live tweet the games with, different levels of success. I am very upfront about it. I'm not even talking 50-50s. I'm willing to go to 60-40s, possibly even 70-30s. It's going to be in Energetik's favour. I'm not going to lie. And I'll be honest with you, as with the live tweets, I'm not going to be paying much attention to the other team. They're going to have descriptors. They will be based on what they look like. They will be random players. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to them. If you want detailed, proper analysis of the games, I want to just give a quick shout out to @Motty's Mike. He's been doing a lot of the English language, and he does it properly. Please rest assured, Chris, we are going to be no threat to you. This is going to be a fan's eye view. This is going to be very biased. It may be a car crash, but who knows? Something great may kind of rise out of the embers of that. So we're going to give it a go. We're still working on the technicals with that. I will be posting out on the Twitter page the exact how to listen to it, how to watch to it, that hopefully will work for everyone. So yeah, please keep an eye out, and we'll update you.
I'll try. I promise I'll try and keep him in check, but it doesn't sound too fun. No, I mean, obviously, please don't tweet us and say you're a bit biased, because we know we are. But clearly, we're aware that we've had, those of you who've been watching us for a few weeks will be aware that we've had one or two questionable decisions in our favours. Obviously, far more completely disgraceful decisions given against us, but one or two penalties that may not necessarily have been penalties, but even we're prepared to admit that. But generally, yes, it is very much a fan's eye view, and most fans are biased, let's be honest, however hard they try. So we hope you'll enjoy that, and that you'll spread the word, and as I say, you'll accept that it comes with this particular caveat that you're not necessarily going to hear an awful lot about Vitebsk on Sunday. Having said that, we would like to talk a little bit about the game, and talk a little bit about our chances, and obviously perhaps talk a little bit about why Vitebsk might be a potential banana skin for us. So how do you see the game panning out, Dan?
I suppose the big thing, ahead of everything else, the big thing that is different about this game than any game that's been this season is we will not have the yak. In the Belarusian league, 4 yellow cards, totting up process, he misses a game. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised he'd reached 4 yellows. I don't really recall him receiving it. I think I vaguely remember one for him kind of having a bit of a whinge at the ref, possibly. But it was nothing that I can really recall him having done that made me think, oh, yeah, he's clearly reached that kind of level. To give comparisons, oh, God, I was about to try and pronounce his name. Heik Mushkarin. Oh, that's a really bad pronunciation.
Just go with Heik. Just go with
Heik. Let's just go with Heik. We'll go with Heik. And I apologise because he does follow us on Twitter as well. I will do better, my friend. I will do better. He's on 2 reds already, and there's a little bit more understanding as to how he got there. 4 yellows for the yak it seems really odd. I don't know if that totted up to you in the same way, Liam.
I think that's the old rose-tinted spectacles there, isn't it, Dan? Really, there's been off the ball, petulant incident, shall we say, for which is. But yes, I agree. I mean, I think the referees do seem to give out yellow cards rather without really much hesitation in many cases, and some of the yellows I've seen seem rather harsh, and especially when you only need 4 to get suspension. So yes. Generally, they used to say, didn't they, about Sean Goater, feed the goat and he will score. I'm not sure we could quite say that about feeding the yak. He's not perhaps quite as we love Yakubov, our diminutive Uzbek striker, but he can be very frustrating at times. But he will be massively missed, I think, from an energetic point of view on Sunday, because he is unpredictably brilliant, to be honest. So yeah, that is a big miss. I mean, from my perspective, I think we've had some fantastic results this season. Again, we've beaten the teams that have won the championship for the last 14 years. I know there's only 2 teams that have done that, 13 Barthes and 1 Brest. But ultimately, that's brilliant, and this is exactly the kind of game. And with my miserable, half-empty approach sometimes to football, that makes me think, oh God, we're gonna lose this 1-0. It's going to be another Gorodeya. For those of you who remember a Gorodeya game earlier in the season when they absolutely did a number on us in a rather Pulis-esque type way. It wasn't fun to watch at all, but very effective, as tends to be the way with teams that are set up like that. And I do have a natural pessimism about this weekend, but obviously Vitebsk haven't won for 5 games, but they haven't lost in 3. So, they are worried. They've got a guy up front called Nicolescu, who's actually an international on loan, I think, from one of the other clubs in the division, as is bizarrely the case sometimes. They aren't as bad as all that. They may not have won in 5, but, it is a worry. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not confident. Because I feel like it's a game that we feel we should win, and that's always a danger. But fingers crossed, we'll get across the line. And ultimately, we're in second place in the league, with presumably one of the smallest budgets in the league. So it's a fantastic place to be right now, and a fantastic time to be an Energetik fan. And obviously, for all of us, we just hope that the dream continues, really, because it's far in excess of all our expectations, especially mine, bearing in mind, as I say, that after my first game, when I decided the next 3 were lost without a goal even being scored. So fantastic time to be an Energetik fan, and we're loving having so many people who seem to be converted to the cause, but there's always room for more.
Yeah, and just to balance out the negativity about this Sunday, of course, it's going to be a 3-1 win. I've caught me saying Jucic, after that smashing goal at the end of the last game, I mean, that's got to give him confidence. He's going to clearly score there. Junior's been out of the game, maybe might come in, might have something to prove. We will always, and this goes even in our best games, we will always give the opposition an opportunity, because we are generous like that. We are friendly like that. We are nice like that. So hence the one. And who am I thinking? I don't know. Maybe Nosco. He's had that cracker of one early doors. I think it was second, third game of the season. He's had the same shot 5 other times. I think since then it hasn't quite come off. But law of averages. Let's just say 3-1 Energetic on Sunday. That's my preview. And if it doesn't go my way, it might make it my review as well. Who needs truth when you've got the opportunity to spout nonsense? So, yeah, that's my view.
I think in due course, if I'm right, Dan, there is a fairly comprehensive preview of the game going out at some point, which John has written, hasn't there? So one to look out for. Certainly gives you perhaps a little bit more in-depth knowledge of the opposition on Sunday, which is, as we've already said, not something we desperately focus on in this evening's offerings, and also in general we are going to focus more on our wonderful team. John has written an awful lot about what Vitebsk might have to offer, both as a opposition on the day, and also if you fancy a trip to Vitebsk. There's quite a lot of interesting historical background in there as well. So an excellent read, which will be coming up shortly, I believe, when Dan posts it out there.
So either a little peek behind the curtains or a bit of time travel, depending on how you want it. If things go to plan, this will have been posted yesterday. It should be on the timeline on the Twitter page. So that would have gone out about midday yesterday. John's kind of done a really decent review of the previous game ahead of that, and an introduction to himself on the blog, which you can link through from the same way. But yeah, he's done a really good preview of where he feels that the risks might be. Again, he's a far more negative person than me, so you'll have to take that into account. But yeah, we are now developing a proper Team Energetic vibe to this place now. There's more of us coming together. And we're all doing this for the love of the team. I just want to stress that none of us are paid by the team. We've got a bit of a link. We've kind of got a bit of authorization to kind of get out there and try and promote the team. But we're all doing this for the love. There is no obligation on us to do this. So I hope that comes across because it will definitely make up for our lack of ability in other areas. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, please look back. John's thing should have gone out yesterday. This has obviously gone out today. Hopefully the streaming thing will happen tomorrow. But yeah, keep an eye on the Twitter page. That's been the main way to keep track of what's going on and where we're going.
And one thing we are struggling to keep track on at the moment, Dan, is the long-awaited merchandise arriving from Minsk, isn't it? So those of you who may already have put in your orders, and those of you who still want to make I wasn't even in the first batch of orders. I think that went out after the euphoria of the Bate victory, so I missed the boat there, and I'm beginning to wonder whether these shirts are being hand woven or something from Russian silk, because clearly we are having a few issues in getting the lovely shirts and scarves that we'd like to have for you all to adorn your walls and to wear during games, of course. It would be lovely, but at the moment we're not quite there. So that's another illustration of some of the technicalities that we have to deal with, some of the communication issues as well in trying to bring you some sort of community to be part of, but not always with the backup that we can provide ourselves.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. I mean, I'm getting quite a lot of people following the Twitter page, quite a lot of people messaging me. Just for a little side point, if you are into Energetic, if you're not just following the league as general, please do message the Energetic Twitter page, because I can introduce you. We've got a really nice group chat going, which is definitely active during the games, before the games, after the games, but at other points during the week, we're just kind of keeping in touch with each other. And we've got people from across the world. We've got people from the Philippines, from New Zealand, from Argentina, from France. There's a nice, real kind of world vibe to that, which is great. The first question is always, how do I get a shirt? And this isn't just from player people. I've actually had a betting site the other day approach me and say, how do I get hold of an Energetic shirt? Simple answer, you can't. More complicated answer, bear with me. I am trying my absolute hardest with this. There was a pre-order that went in. That went in pretty much 2 months ago. It is en route, is my understanding. I think this kind of highlights, though, quite a key point to do with the club. It's very easy to think of Premier League football as being the Premier League in this country, and it's not. Let's put it that way. Energetik are a tiny club. Their max attendance at their inverted commas stadium is 1,500 people. They do not sell shirts at the stadium. It is a tiny, tiny club. There's a guy I'm dealing with at the club. He's doing about 10 different jobs. These shirts, they don't sell them in Minsk even. They are pretty much, from what I can tell, making them for us. So there's a whole dynamic here that is completely different to anything we're used to, anything we're expecting. I'm pretty much committed myself to the fact I'm sorting out this first one first. Once that's dealt with, we'll start looking at a second order as if that is possible. I don't want to commit, but I would ask that people understand that it will require a significant degree of patience. Yeah, bear with me, guys.
On that subject as well, in terms of significant degree of patience, contrary to public rumour, Dan does not get the team lineups 6 hours before the game begins. So when he gets them, he posts them. So these are all little examples. It sounds like we're whinging, and we're not at all. We love having everybody on board. It's so lovely to have so many people enthusiastic and desperate to know who's starting today and desperate to wear the shirt and everything. At the moment, all we can promise you is rubbish chat and lots of it. Okay, but whenever we can, then we will make sure that you can take your fandom that little bit further. And in the meantime, just enjoy, as I say, just enjoy the ride. It's a wonderful team to be associated with. It's probably one of the few positives to come out of this awful situation we've been living with for the last couple of months. And so, obviously we want to keep it going. We don't want to. The whole motto is stay energetic, and I know energetic works better, but ultimately we're in this for a while now. We're not thinking about disappearing off in a couple of months. This is what we want to do, and we support other teams, of course, and there will be times when difficult decisions will have to be made in terms of clashes, but we'd love to think that as many as possible of you would also stick with us and stay with the team long after many other distractions re-enter your lives, whether those be football or other distractions.
Yeah, and that's a valid point as well. There is always going to be an after to this pandemic. And there's always going to be a new normal that kind of develops out of it. Other leagues are going to go back to normal. Something to bear in mind: the timing of the Belarusian league does mean it covers the horrible, horrible break in the year where there is no football. I mean, we all hate it. This gives you an opportunity to support a team that will keep on playing throughout that. So bear that in mind. It may just be a summer fling for now, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a summer fling every year, even if you don't have the commitment to kind of support throughout the year. So that is another advantage to the situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know else what we can chat about.
I think we should call it a day. We're babbling incoherently now, and I think I think if they've managed to stick with this for 25 minutes nearly, then they've done a brilliant job, and we promise more.
Indeed.
Perhaps a little bit more concise as we learn as we go along exactly what you do and don't want to hear. Please don't pan us. Constructive criticism is always welcome. Abuse is not. So it'd be lovely to hear from you and see what you think. As I say, we're happy to take on board ideas. We'll do everything we can to improve your knowledge of the team and also to kit you out with what we can in due course, as Dan has already mentioned. But thank you so much for tuning into this, and we look forward to coming back some point next week to update you on where we're at, and hopefully Dan's confident, optimistic prediction Sunday scoreline will be much more accurate than my miserable 1-1 draw that I'm currently favouring. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon.
Indeed. Take care.